This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight.
A more than 30-year veteran of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force killed while on duty at Government House. That story straight ahead.
Plus, not impressed. The Pine Ridge MP gives his assessment of his party's performance in office as its 2-year anniversary approaches. And the former transport minister calls the Prime Minister's comments on traffic laws embarrassing.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Topping news tonight, a Defence Force officer is dead, the victim of a shooting. Government House is the crime scene, where police had to be called in after a reported altercation turned deadly. Police held a news conference earlier to share details of the incident. Our Jared Higgs picks up the story from here.
A middle-of-the-night killing of a Royal Bahamas Defense Force Marine while on duty at Government House, sending shockwaves through the community. Now, top law enforcement officials hosted a press conference on Sunday afternoon. That's where Minister of National Security Marvin Dames expressed bewilderment at the incident.
How was something like this allowed to take place in such a public space that was supposed to have been so secured?
Our news understands that the victim is 52-year-old Petty Officer Philip Prapal, a more than 30-year veteran of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and a father of 5 children. According to Commissioner of Police Anthony Ferguson, it was around 2:30 on Sunday morning when a man accessed Government House's premises and proceeded to the compound's guard room. That's where several officers, including Prapal, the guard commander, were gathered.
This male opened fire from a handgun on the guard commander, hitting him several times to the upper body before fleeing the premises. He was pursued by alert Marines. However, he made good his escape. Paramedics were summoned to the scene where they examined the victim and pronounced him dead at that location.
Ferguson confirmed that the Governor General was not on the premises at the time of the incident. However, he would not substantiate social media rumors that a fellow Defense Force Marine is in custody, assisting police with the investigation.
All I would say is that there is a person of interest that we are talking to, and hopefully we'll be able to resolve this incident.
Royal Bahamas Defense Force Commodore TELLIS BETHEL described Prapal as a great man who left his mark in the Defense Force. He says the 52-year-old served for over 30 years with a peacekeeping stint in Haiti among the highlights of his career.
He was hardworking, he was dedicated, and he was committed, and certainly had earned the respect of his peers. And so this has come across as a real blow to the members of the Defense Force, and it's ricocheted throughout the force, and certainly there will be a need for healing among the members of the force, especially those who worked in his department.
Among Petty Officer Prapal's 5 children is a 14-year-old boy. Longtime neighbors described the 52-year-old as a quiet man, while grieving family members remembered him as a devoted father.
When the information, I could not help but to feel tremendous sadness that a man, a family man, who went to work to make a living for his family, not knowing that it would end so tragic.
National Security Minister Marvin Dames offered condolences to Prapal's family on behalf of the government. He says government is committed to the security of the nation, and a team will be put together to investigate the incident from a protocol standpoint. He added that the incident has heightened urgency with regard to ensuring that government buildings are properly secured.
It is time, high time, for us to move in that direction. We are living in a different world nowadays, and we must move with the times.
According to our news records, Prapal's killing and the early Sunday morning shooting death of a businessman on Bimini bring the 2019 murder count to 23. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks a lot, Jared. Well, meantime, over on the island of Bimini, police there are investigating a shooting that's left an American man dead. Now, we understand the shooting incident occurred around 1 this morning. Police say the victim was shot multiple times to the upper body while at his residence. He was taken to the Bimini clinic. However, he later succumbed to his injuries. Police are appealing to members of the public who may have any information that can assist in this investigation to contact them. Well, on to other news this evening. The government has no plans for any new tax systems here in the Bahamas. That declaration coming from Finance Minister Peter Turnquest as he spoke with reporters on the sidelines of a Financial Intelligence Unit meeting.
It's safe to say that certainly from a government's point of view, there is no intention for any new tax system at this time. As I've always said, the responsibility of the Ministry of Finance and we're establishing our Economic Research Unit is to look at the horizon to see how global trends are changing and what that may mean for our tax base and any options that we may have in order to address any risk that may arise in the future. But at this particular time, there is no intention for any changes in the tax system.
According to Turnquest, he and his ministry are busy making sure the country doesn't get left behind as the world changes and adapts new tax systems. He added that there are a lot of technical issues on the horizon.
Global economy is changing. Everything's becoming more digital. You have this new phenomenon, or not, well, relatively new phenomenon about this shared economy with the Ubers and the Airbnbs and those kind of platforms. Even when you talk about software, Microsoft or Office or Word, you don't buy the software anymore. You actually use it offline on the cloud or whatever. That raises some very tricky issues about taxation. You know, how do you tax that? Who is due to tax? Is it taxed here, or is it taxed at the user end, or is it taxed at the source end? What does that mean to countries in terms of their tax base?
Turnquest reassured the public that there will be no increase in value-added tax.
I can say with 100% assurance, there will be no increase in value-added tax. As George Bush says, read my lips. But I mean it.
Well, the finance minister also addressing one of the major criticisms the Bahamas has faced from the Financial Action Task Force, and that is the lack of prosecutions for money laundering activities here in the country. Turnquest agrees that stronger laws and enforcement are needed.
So one of the criticisms that we've had is that we've not had enough prosecutions according to whatever statistics that the FATF, FATF has been looking at. And we've not been able to demonstrate that we have in fact had prosecutions for money laundering activities. And we have had effective investigations that were fully vetted and closed, either with some action having been taken, and I can't remember the number now, but there's a number of prosecutions that have happened, and there have been some administrative penalties, remedies that have been instituted in others.
According to Turnquest, a new system is now being put in place that will send information directly to the FIU and warn them of suspicious financial activities and will even notify police.
The improvements that they're doing now with the FIU is to implement a new software system that will track suspicious transaction reports from the time they're reported to the referral to the police department for investigation, to the receiving of that information back to the FIU, and the disposal of the case and feedback to the reporting officer so that the full loop is closed. And we also be able to document the number of reports that we have, how they were disposed of, the ones that have gone for prosecution, the status of the prosecution, so that we can demonstrate and document to all of these assessors that we are in fact being effective in our oversight of the jurisdiction.
Turnquest said FIU was forgotten, but he pledges that his administration will bring it forward and give it the tools it needs to thrive. Well, in just over a week, the Free National Movement will mark its second-year anniversary since taking office. But one F&M MP who has stirred quite a lot of controversy since then isn't too impressed with the Menace administration's performance thus far. Our Kyle Joaquin has more.
There has been some progress, but not enough for us to boast or brag about at this time.
After nearly 2 years in office, the Pine Ridge MP said he just thought more would have been done for the people of Grand Bahama.
I think people expected more. And when it comes to the governance of from the Free National Movement perspective, because of what they touted, what they say, how they say it, in terms of transparency and accountability, there were greater expectations, especially when you can compare the performance today with past performance of an F&M administration.
A letter of intent has been signed for the purchase of the Grand Lucine Resort on Grand Bahama, and the Prime Minister has spoken about plans to develop the island into a tech hub. But McAlpine still feels that's not enough.
I like to see the average man feeling a little bit more comfortable about his governance, about their governance. I'd like to see the average man doing better in their pockets, because what's the use of telling me the economy is growing and people are hurting in their pockets, struggling to pay their mortgage, their rent, their children in school. Everything went up. We went up on VAT by 60%. But there's been no push to up salaries in this country.
McAlpine has caused quite the stir since being elected as the Member of Parliament for Pine Ridge, from speaking out against government moves to voting against party lines in Parliament. But McAlpine says he still enjoys being a voice for his constituents.
Within the last 2 years, people have had higher light bills, water bills, cable, electricity. Nobody went up on minimum wages, and nobody went up on the general public in terms of finances, in terms of general salary. So it's difficult. And so after 2 years, government is supposed to be about making life better for its people. And I'm not sure we have fully accomplished that yet within this 2 years. Something good might be coming. Well, we're all still waiting.
For Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
The former Transport Minister, GLENYS HANNA-MARTIN, is insisting Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis's recent comments about road safety are embarrassing in light of the fact that she says they seem to have been prompted by a recent U.S. report. With that story, here's our Jasmine Brown.
I was saddened and embarrassed that the Prime Minister of our country, who he says coincidentally, I think it is coincidental, was able to suddenly tell the Bahamian people that he's going to look at the laws, or he's invited the Law Commission to look at laws that deal with the fines and penalties, particularly killing in the course of dangerous driving.
HANNA-MARTIN says she was embarrassed because the PM's comments came at an interesting time, just weeks after Parliament debated and passed the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2019.
I was embarrassed because we just had an entire debate in the Parliament dealing with road safety. The Prime Minister was there. No mention of any of this thing. I mean, it's so compelling and urgent, and no mention during that debate. And when I contributed that debate, I was able to point out that there was a body of work that was done by the ministry, not me, so they don't have to worry my fingerprints being on it politically, by the ministry, which created a whole framework for road safety. And it came from the foundational understanding that road safety requires a comprehensive approach, which includes fines and other things. And it dealt with specifically fines and penalties. The very thing the Prime Minister spoke about, it's sitting in the office of the Minister of Transport.
Last week, Wednesday, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis told the press that he had spoken with the Law Reform Commissioner about strengthening the insulting traffic penalties that exist in the Bahamas. The PM said it was insulting for individuals who have fatally knocked down someone to just basically get a slap on the wrist. Minnis also said he believes soft penalties could have serious repercussions in the international community and called on fines to be a lot more harsh. His comments came in light of a recent U.S. report which listed traffic fatalities in the Bahamas as a major concern. In its 2019 Crime and Safety Report, the United States Overseas Security Advisory Council said traffic accidents in the Bahamas are often due to drivers who are intolerant, reckless, and sometimes antagonistic. HANNA-MARTIN says it shouldn't take a report to get a response from the Prime Minister.
The reason I'm saddened more than ever is because it took the report from the American government or whichever body that was to provide a warning or an advisory that caused our government, our Prime Minister, to, I say, jump. when you would hope that they'd be motivated by the facts on the ground. When you look at all of the fatalities, when you look at the serious injuries, when you look at all of the accidents, and you look at the fact that penalties are glaringly deficient in this country, glaring, the whole country's talking about it. He didn't see, the Prime Minister didn't see it. It just so happened coincidentally. I was very embarrassed by that.
According to statistics released by the Commissioner of Police in January, there were 63 traffic accidents recorded in the Bahamas in 2018 that resulted in 69 deaths. Of those deaths, 31 were pedestrians, 20 were drivers, 12 were passengers, 3 were motorcyclists, and 3 were bicyclists. Late last month, the government passed amendments to the Road Traffic Act in the House of Assembly that will criminalize the use of cell phones and other electronic communication devices while driving, along with making it illegal to drive with open alcoholic beverages. Those amendments have yet to be brought into force. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, opposition leader Philip Brave Davis says those who manage and serve in the Royal Bahamas Police Force need to state their side of the story when it comes to that damning audit of the reserves branch.
There are a number of issues that seem to have arisen that speaks to tensions that exist between what I call the substantive force and the reservists as a force that may be feeding a lot of what the conclusions might be.
Davis, who had called the audit troubling, has also said the branch seems like a dumping ground for retired officers. He insisted there are clearly challenges that need to be tackled head on.
Another challenge that we are not addressing, and that is how are police officers organizing themselves personally in taking into account when they will be retired and what life will be after retirement. And so those are some of the things that we need to be addressing and looking into.
The audit that was tabled in the House of Assembly by National Security Minister Marvin Dames on Monday revealed the program was not operating in an optimal manner. It outlined 5 main issues that were detrimental to the overall success of the branch and was initiated after the completion of a manpower audit on the traditional sector of the force. Among the 5 issues outlined in the audit, the report noted that there were no proper systems in place to accurately account for the strength of the branch. It also revealed that 1,255 reservists identified, approximately 786 or 61.2% were active and 487 or 38.8% were inactive and had not reported to duty in over a year. Davis says at the end of the day, the troubling findings deserve an explanation.
Someone needs to speak to the reservists as a body to determine exactly what they believe of the report, because that is one view. And we need to understand those who experience the role that they play as reservists, how they are treated as reservists, how they are assimilated in the whole force.
Meantime, our news team understands Minister Dames met with the reservists days before tabling the audit. It is still unclear what action, if any, will be taken by officials to fix the reserves branch. Well, still ahead tonight, a prominent U.S. civil rights attorney now representing the Bahamian teen beaten during an arrest by Florida police. And the health minister issues a warning for distributors of CBD products. You're watching The Best. Stay with us.